one infant are among the latest victims of U.S. military operations in Iraq. The girls were killed Tuesday as they hid in a home in Ramadi. The U.S. military says troops targeted the home with tanks and machine guns after coming under fire from insurgents. They later discovered the girls' bodies as well as that of a suspected insurgent believed to have run inside. In Europe, a new report by the European Parliament has concluded 11 European countries cooperated actively or passively to the secret CIA practice known as extraordinary rendition. The investigation found more than 1,200 CIA flights went through European airspace or landed at one of its airports. In Bolivia, the Senate has approved a landmark measure to distribute idle or illegally held land to the poor. The agrarian reform bill came under heavy opposition from senators tied to wealthy landowners. But the opposition splintered after weeks of protests from landless Indians who marched on the capital, La Paz. New details are emerging about the recommendations in the Iraq Study Group's final report due next week. The Washington Post reports the panel is to recommend withdrawing nearly all U.S. combat units from Iraq by early 2008, but leave thousands of troops to advise, train, and embed with Iraqi brigades. The proposal would leave the ultimate decision on withdrawal to U.S. military commanders. In other Iraq news, the Iraqi government has announced it'll prosecute journalists who fail to correct stories the Iraqi government decides are incorrect. Iraq's Interior Ministry has established a new unit to monitor journalists and their news coverage. Here in the United States, a government research agency has concluded paperless electronic voting machines jeopardize voting because they cannot be made secure. In what the Washington Post calls the most sweeping condemnation of electronic voting by a federal agency, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, says votes should be counted independently of the software in voting machines used across the United States. Opponents of electronic voting are urging the Election Assistance Commission to adopt NIST's recommendations. In Venezuela, Hugo Chavez has won a landslide victory over his rival Manuel Rosales in Sunday's presidential election. Chavez gained over 60% of the vote. Last night, thousands of supporters celebrated in Caracas. Chavez told the crowd his re-election marked a great victory for the Bolivarian Revolution and a setback to President Bush. In Mexico, Felipe Calderón was sworn in as the country's new president during a chaotic ceremony Friday. Calderón's taking office after one of the most contested presidential races in Mexico's history. Calderón's main opponent, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, maintains the election was stolen and that he is, in fact, the legitimate president. On Friday, opposition lawmakers who back López Obrador set up a barricade of chairs inside the National Congress in an attempt to prevent Calderón from entering the building. Fistfights broke out on the floor of Congress. One lawmaker held up a sign that read, "Mexico doesn't deserve a traitor to democracy as president."